see the grays? I got silver.
Yes, I am loving the blue. Like, it
looks
is my
fantastic.
favorite thing.
Looks
I'm not
fantastic.
seeing our video. Okay, I'm sorry. If y'all see me, I'm not seeing the video on the Geekverse YouTube page. There we go. Okay, there it is. I found it. We have to do the tweet things. Twitter things. Hello! How's everyone doing tonight? If you're here, sound off in the comments while I tweet this.
Yes, I'm here with Darth Revan.
Ooh.
Yes.
Quick tweets. All right, so we have been tweeted. So hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Rentschler, and Clay had a bit of an emergency. Everybody's fine, but he had to skip out tonight, which is okay. And I just noticed we're on the Geekverse brand, so please hold because I'm a mess. There we go. Now we're fixed. So Sarah, one of the co-hosts for Slice of Film, is stepping in for him tonight. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to get able to join you. It's been a minute since I've been on Star Wars Alliance.
I know. And, for the conversation, it's like fitting. Because it's Rebels. Everybody likes to talk about Rebels.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's so funny is my son was actually the one that started watching Rebels because Zeb was like his favorite. So then I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to get into this.
Sorry, I just noticed someone is in our backyard. I moved offices. If you can't tell, here's a great picture. I got my Canon books behind me, and the Legends books are over there. So can have two very nice looks for us. I'm gonna put it back because I was too lazy to find a Rebels background.
I did get 2 more books. I did order 2 more books. I got the Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The Kenobi book?
Mm-hmm. And then also I don't have it in here with me, but and also the Darth Vader one. So I was like, oh.
Ooh, which Darth Vader one? The Legends one?
I don't remember which one. Like I said, I have a sitting on. I can tell you real quick though. I'm real prepared, as you can tell.
Me too. I have a list of shelves right behind me. Can't you tell? I have all the books. Is it Dark?
Yeah, I got Kenobi, Dark Legends, and I got Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader.
That is so good. Let me tell you, great book. I have not read Kenobi. I'm gonna get to Kenobi, I promise. Mm-hmm. But Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader, phenomenal. Absolutely love it. Great book. After you read that one, highly, highly recommend Revenge of the Sith, the novelization from Matthew Stover. That is a phenomenal book. Like, can't get over it at all. And Nathan, what are you doing? Hello, Katie Butt? What? Excuse me. Can I help you? So, y'all, we are going to be talking some Rebels tonight. But before we get into that, let's talk about the podcast paperwork side of things. Like I said, we're part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network, where we have 8 shows, 7 days a week. On Sundays, please hold while I text my husband because this person is taking pictures in our backyard and I'm very confused.
Yes, that's not something that is. But my dog just walked in covered in dirt, so I'm I'll just go ahead and lay down and just be quiet because I can't be in a room by myself and not have them in there. So let's see if I can close this door real quick. So
you're good. I'm totally distracted right now. So yes, we are a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network. 8 shows, 7 days a week. Starting back April 3rd, we've got Slice of Film every other week with me, Sarah, and Mark Tan from Full Circle Cinema. April 3rd will be a podcast introduction spiel. And then Mark wanted to do an episode on the Oscars and what happened during the Oscars. So there will be 2 episodes that drop that day. So very excited for that. Mondays, you've got Ranger Alliance, and then you've also got World's Finest True Believers. They alternate every other week. And then every other Saturday, you've got World's Finest. I walk through the multiverse. I am so distracted because she's like walking around and I'm very confused. So I'm just gonna pull the blinds and we're gonna ignore it. We're gonna ignore it. So I'll walk through the multiverse with Joe. That is every other Saturday. And then our weekly shows on Tuesdays, you've got DC Alliance. Wednesdays, you've got superhero discussions. Thursdays, you're here. It's Star Wars Alliance Day. And then Fridays is Marvel Alliance. So that wraps up that. If you I am so concerned. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very concerned. Okay. We are a listener and a Patreon supported network. So what that means is this podcast does have ads in it. I will attempt to give you a warning when those ads are about to appear, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how loud the ads are, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode. So that warning is just to kind of help you prepare those volume levels because they do kind of get really loud sometimes. If you are not interested in getting ads on your podcast, then you can support us on Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber crystals charged on here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes we may drop. One that Sarah and I did on there, which we're going to have to follow up on, is Bridgerton Season 1. We covered that. It was like 3 hours. It's a glorious episode, y'all. It is on our Patreon. It's exclusive. You should go check that out. But I have 2 Star Wars specific shows. I have a Legends podcast, and then Matt and I are going through the canon comic books. So those are 2 if you're interested to go check those out. If you would like to support us another very good way to do that is to write a review on your favorite podcatcher of choice. That those reviews and ratings help put the network in or the show into the feed of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. I think that covers it. If just as a spoiler warning, because I got to get back into the habit of this with Slice Film starting back.
Yes.
We will be talking about Rebels and some spoilers. So, because if y'all aren't in the social media form of things, for the Rebels series finale, there is a Twitter user. Her handle is Blue Jag Eyes. And she basically started a tradition that for the Rebels series finale, it would be a Rebels Remembered Day. And so everybody kind of gets online. They talk about their favorite parts of the show. They talk about where's Ezra, because Ezra disappeared. And so it's just a good way to reflect back on a good show. It does trend pretty much every year. And so we wanted to do this a while back ago. The week after Rebels Remembered Day, which was March 4th, I think. And we wanted to do it the week after, but then the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer came out. So then we had to talk about that, and we couldn't, as much as I wanted to talk about Rebels, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like,
oh, yes. Yes.
And then, of course, last week we talked about the glorious Dave Filoni and Maul and Favreau fiasco with Obi-Wan Kenobi that had come out, as well as Midnight Horizon, because I failed to promote those episodes accordingly. So go check those out if you haven't listened to them. Just scroll back in the feed. They're there, I promise. So we are here now for Rebels Remembered, but we do have one piece of news to talk about. The great Christopher Lloyd, the man of Back to the Future himself, not Marty McFly. I can never remember his character name. Oh my gosh.
Professor Emmett Brown.
Yes, Professor Brown. Mm-hmm. Doc Brown.
Yeah.
So he will be in Mandalorian season 3. Now the man has made, I'm not gonna say a comeback because he's been in stuff, but like he's been in a couple really good movies last year, and so I'm excited to see who he plays in Mandalorian season 3. I saw a couple of good like theories on who he could be, but what do you think about Lloyd coming and joining the Mandoverse?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I mean, I love Christopher Lloyd. I can't. Oh my gosh! I mean, he's one of those actors that he can take a character and just bring it to life like all kinds of crazy. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm really curious. I'm just really curious to see what character. I mean, I'm hoping he's a character and not just a voice.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm really excited because I mean, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if I can speculate because I'm just so excited because he's such a fantastic actor. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy. But I mean, he'll just always be like, Doc Brown. And of course, he was Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And he was also.
He was in Nobody last year. Very good movie.
Yeah. And he was also a Klingon in one of the Star Trek movies. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that was like eons ago. So, I mean, he's super versatile. But he's one of those actors you will recognize him.
And that was Clay and I made fun of Snell in the group chat because he talked about Machete in Book of Boba Fett being too noticeable.
Machete? He's like too machete.
He was like, you're going to see him on screen and you just think Machete. And I'm like, okay, so how do you feel about this? And I don't remember Snell's response. I believe he responded.
And that's the thing about it. That's the thing about it. Because if you have characters that are or actors that are so recognizable, it's really difficult not to typecast them, but you try to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're taking their craft and they're creating this great character and that kind of thing. So I'm just really, I mean, in Filoni and Favreau, I trust. So I'm feel fairly confident that they'll put him in a role that I think he'll kill it. He'll absolutely kill it.
Clearly, I disagree, but I'll leave it at that because that was last week's episode. No, I'm excited by this. 2 good theories I saw that have some potential, I think. One person said, what if Christopher Lloyd is the voice of Grogu?
Oh.
And then...
Okay. I'll digest that one for a minute.
Well, because you're not going to know this other one that I'm going to talk about, so you can digest this one. But then another person was like, oh, it could be really cool to see him as Joris Sabath, which is a primary, well, he's currently only a Legends character. And he's prominent in the Timothy Zahn books for Thrawn. So he's in Outbound Flight, he's in the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and I believe he's in the Hand of Thrawn duology. But I'm not certain on that one. It's been a while since I've read that one. But he's basically gray, very firm Jedi Master. Who's dedicated to what he does. So, what I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, what a lot of people have thought about with Thrawn being gone, with Ezra being gone, is that Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, and Book of Boba Fett, and at the time, Rangers of the New Republic were going to lead to an Heir to the Empire type crossover, where they were taking a lot from Heir to the Empire and they were going to basically utilize that in some form to get something very similar for the canon universe. So it's a very good theory that Joris could be in The Mandalorian and this could be an introduction to him. However, a lot of people, the person, his name's Jordan Mason, he works as the editor-in-chief for Cinelinx. He brought up a good point and was like, it seems like Snoke is taking the place of Joris in the greater canon universe. And in the Rise of Kylo Ren, Ben basically looks at Snoke and says, "Look what Master Luke did to you." Nobody knows what Luke did to Snoke currently. So we're probably going to get Luke Skywalker and Snoke at some point in this trilogy facing off.
That'd be interesting.
Especially with what we saw in the Bad Batch, which with what looked like Snoke clones. And we kind of see them in the Mandalorian too, is what we think is Snoke clones in the big facility that they're in. Sorry, I have a fidget toy and I dropped it. I have so much energy tonight. It is unreal, y'all. I'm sorry. I am a mess. Never denied that though. So, but it could be cool to see. I love Heir to the Empire, so I don't really want to see it kind of transition into canon. I just want to see canon choose to make its own story, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that people can kind of play the Star Trek timeline and go, okay, everything pre Return of the Jedi works for both canon Thrawns. So like current canon Thrawn works with not canon Thrawn. So if people decide to like split it off, I hope that's what they go with instead of choosing to retell that story.
Right. That way you have different avenues for different stories. So that way you're not really pigeonholed into like one definitive timeline.
Right. Because that's what Tom, the editor from Del Rey, and I keep citing this interview, y'all, but Tom's just such a great person. And he was full of knowledge when he came and talked to Nathan and I. So it was really cool to talk with him. But Tom said one of the things that they're trying to do when they bring in Legends characters is to make it so all avenues of storytelling, like they're not trying to ex-nay something in Legends. They're trying to accentuate it. And I really appreciate that. So it'll suck because they're going to use Thrawn. I just hope they do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's such a great actor. Speaking of Thrawn.
Transition time. We're going to talk about Rebels. So, basically, because I know I said I was going to do homework, but I didn't do homework because I just had so much energy. So we're just going to talk about Rebels. If you're curious as to what Blue Jay Eyes did, I will link her Instagram down below because she's currently more active on Instagram, and it has some cool templates where you can go in and basically do to your Instagram story and go through all the different characters and go, this is what my favorite moment is. This is my favorite thing about Kanan. Very cool things. But we're going to kind of skirt around everything she did and basically just have a chat about Star Wars. You guys may be lucky because this episode may be so quick that you don't get an ad break, even though that makes me more money. So
I don't know, Katie. We have a tendency to kind of draw things out, so you never know.
I know this is true, but we have another one to record after this, and I need to go to bed, clearly. So, all right. So, just because I'm staring at the Twitter page where I tweeted with the "What Fun" gif from Maul, we're going to talk about favorite villain first. So, who's your favorite villain? We've got Thrawn, we've got the Inquisitors, Maul, Darth Vader is in season 1, so you got to mention Darth Vader because everybody loves Darth Vader.
Well, talking about Darth Vader, that's going to tie into one of my favorite scenes, but we'll get there. Obviously Thrawn, because I remember when I was first getting to know who Thrawn was, I made the mistake of telling Nathan, I was like, Thrawn. He's like, that is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Thank you very much. I was like, yes, sir. My bad. But that's before I really appreciated Thrawn. And, I don't know if I really, in Rebels, yes, I would say he is the villain. But I just don't know if I see him as a villain anymore. That's what happens when you read the damn books.
But the books are so good.
I know they are. Another one I liked was Callus. He was such a Hooks type character because, every time you saw him, he was always, he was literally the villain until what, like the later
Last
seasons, and
season?
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then when you're like, oh, somebody had a change of heart, so that was really interesting. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
cannot forget the Grand Inquisitor or the
Oh.
was it the Night Sisters and the was it the Seventh Brother?
Seventh sister, fifth brother.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
mean, because and then what was the one that was the smaller one that was flying around? Because it's like I was trying to remember.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean? Because there was
Yeah.
two of them.
I think it was seventh. I think the only Inquisitors we saw was seventh sister and fifth brother, which
But I
are both
want to
going
say
to make
there was
appearances in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
But I want to say there was a third one. There was a
I think
third
it was
one.
just Grand Inquisitor and then those two.
Really? Seems like there was a smaller one. I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
We can Google.
I know, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. You see how prepared we are. But I was just like, oh my gosh. I know. If I just look at the. Because I know.
Inquisitors, Star Wars Rebels Wiki. Okay. We have sixth brother, seventh, or I'm sorry, fifth brother, seventh sister were killed by Maul. Eighth brother was sent to hunt down Maul as well. He fell to his death on Malachor.
Yes, and that's the one I'm talking about. He was the smaller one because he was the one flying around with because he was the smaller one. But those Inquisitors, man, they were crazy.
And I don't care what people say, the helicopter lightsabers are badass.
Yes.
I love the helicopter lightsabers. And everyone can just like get on their high horse and go, no, Star Wars is supposed to be realistic science fiction. No fucking way.
But it made it more menacing. It's like, these dudes, you didn't know what they were about to do. You're like, okay, are they going to come at you this way or straight on? Or are they going to just come out of nowhere and just they were very menacing. I will give credit to that. They were extremely menacing, especially, what was it, Sarah Michelle Gellar that voiced was it the Ninth Sister? Was it Ninth Sister? Because
Eighth sister?
Yeah, I'm like,
eighth brother.
Yeah, she was a seventh.
No, she was seventh sister.
I'm like, I can't keep up with the damn numbers. Damn it. Like, it's crazy.
I know, and like, going back to Obi-Wan Kenobi for a second, when talking about the new Inquisitor, she's third sister. And she's introduced with a name, but in an article that goes under the water because everyone basically said, oh, she has a name. This defeats rebels. No, she was actually given a number in an article. She was just referred to by the name. And technically, all the Inquisitors have names. They're just referred to by the numbering system.
Yeah.
So... anyways, get off my high horse.
I totally agree with you on that one. That makes sense. They have the name first before they become that, so it is what it is.
So, okay. My favorite villain, I really got to go with Maul. Maul is just so well characterized, especially after bringing him back in the Clone Wars. Like, you're always, okay, so when is he actually going to die now? When is he going to die now? And, like, the way Sam Witwer voices him, oh, my gosh, it is so perfect. Because I can't pick Thrawn because I've read the books before. And so, especially with Rebels was the first introduction of Thrawn into canon. And then the books came out. So it's like, okay.
That's how it hit me because I was introduced to him through Rebels and then I read the book. So it's kind of like, I was like, this dude, oh my gosh, he's crazy. He's like, oh, he is just, you want to just wring his neck because you're like, this guy is just too good. He's just bad.
Right. And I just hate the character they chose to make him in Rebels because it's not who he is. And because you've read the books.
Yeah.
And we've kind of dived into the difference where Rebels chooses to fully make him a villain, but he's not actually a villain. He's an anti-hero.
Right.
I'd say. So, but Maul is just perfect. And my favorite scene, it always goes between the Ahsoka Vader fight and the Obi-Wan Kenobi Maul fight. Like, those are just the two most iconic parts of Rebels to me, and they just speak so much to the greater story being told.
But the thing about Maul too is like when he's introduced, and it's like the it's like the relationship or how he's trying to interact with Ezra. I'm like, this, I mean, to me, it just deepened his character. Because, I mean, honestly, I had not read any Maul type thing. So, I mean, honestly, from Phantom Menace, when you see him from there, I mean, that's really what I had stuck. So, seeing Maul in a different light, in a different, and plus interacting with different, or just an interaction period.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like that Sith that's just kind of in the background, just kind of like to me, I always felt like just a hired gun in essence.
Yeah.
But the way he kind of worked Ezra, I was like, whoa. I said, this dude, he's got a little depth to him.
Yeah, they just make it such a psychological bender in that case, because you're like, okay, has he changed? And at this point, remember, we did not have the Clone Wars Season 7. So we do not get any of the Lady Tano, like, why is she Lady Tano? Why do they have such a relationship? Because they never interacted. So it's like, okay, what's going on? And so rewatching it, like, because Matt watched it for the first time last fall after the Clone Wars Season 7 came out. I got him prepared and said, hey, you have to watch the Clone Wars because you're watching the Clone Wars Season 7 when it comes out. And so we've watched basically everything in order. We finished the Bad Batch, and then we went into Rebels. So it was like, ooh, okay, how's this gonna go? So rewatching it, it was magical. It was magical because everything just ties in together. This is Dave Filoni at his strongest storytelling aspects because he's linking everything in the chain. So
yeah, it was. Rebels is one of those I can rewatch it. I can rewatch the episodes. I can, and it's like what, only like 4 seasons?
Yeah, it's only 4 seasons.
And I'm like, I could just like rewatch it all. It's like, I love it.
And seasons 1 and 2 are hard to get through.
Yeah, they are.
Because they're building characters, but it was also trying to find its place in the galaxy. And I think Resistance, because Resistance is what takes place in the sequel trilogy. They did an animation show for that, if anyone, because it's not promoted anywhere. It's there.
It's there. I mean, it's not really talked about much.
And because I think it struggles with the same thing, trying to find its identity in the first 2 seasons. And so I think if it had gone on longer, then it would have found its place and kind of done something very similar to what Rebels did.
Yes.
But with Disney Plus coming around, everyone was like, okay, we have to end things because they're going to Disney Plus. So, yeah. Anyways, this is not a Resistance show. This is a Rebel show. We've talked kind of we're just connecting everything. We're just giving.
Well, I mean, there is a connection. I mean, and that's the fun thing about it is the fact that everything does connect. It's not like you just have these series that are just like put out. I mean, and that's the great thing about the Star Wars universe is like there is connective tissue. And now it's starting to be more apparent. And that's what's so cool about it. Because now, it's like, watching Mandalorian, especially when Ahsoka comes in, this, and, and I've talked about this on SCS before, especially with Anakin's downfall. I'm like, well, if you, obviously, well, I haven't read the books, you and I have talked about this too, but, with Padme and Anakin and all this, but I'm like, well, if you throw Ahsoka in there, him being his Padawan, that's something else that could add to the whole, downfall, of Anakin becoming Vader. I'm like, and it's just, to me, that makes sense. You have all these connective tissues that are finally coming together, and you're seeing that, and you're just like, oh, yeah, I know. You're like, ooh.
So, because I saw something on Reddit, because I sneak on Reddit sometimes.
You fall down that rabbit hole, don't you?
I fall down the
you fall down the Reddit hole
of am I the asshole relationship advice and best Redditor updates, because I just like reading how stupid people are sometimes. It's very fun to me. But I was recommended something, and it was talking about how Ahsoka is probably only 2 years younger than Anakin. But yet she's his Padawan.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would say 2 years. I mean, I wouldn't say that close.
Well, because if you think about it, he was brought to the Jedi Order. He was maybe like 9 or 10.
Right.
And so then he spends 10 years as Obi-Wan's Padawan, and then very shortly gets promoted to Jedi Knight afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So people were saying that, and I was like, because she's only supposed to be like 13, 14 in the Clone Wars. So I'm like, she's got to be younger than that. But it brought up an interesting question with the Jedi Council choosing to give Anakin a Padawan.
Did she not train with Plo Koon at some point too? Because I mean, she knew Plo Koon.
So Plo Koon brought her to the temple.
Okay.
Plo Koon didn't actually train her. She was a youngling, and then
he just recognized the fact that he had, force capabilities, and then brought her. Okay, all right, that makes sense. But it's just interesting how I don't know how Snips and Sky got together.
I love to see that like mini story. That's like
how did they think to put those two together? Because I mean, I can see why, because I guess her temperament was very similar to Anakin's.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, she was kind of, but her growth throughout Clone Wars was just crazy. And then to see her in Rebels, because then she takes on this, what was she, Fulcrum?
Yep.
But and like I said, and to see her take like that level of leadership, I'm just like, is this Snips for real? It's like this little girl's grown up. Look at her. And then, like I said, then you see her Mandalorian where she's like my age, and I'm like, man, she's she's really getting there.
Highly recommend Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston.
If that is on my list to buy too. So I'm like, God, I have so many Star Wars books to read.
But it's so good.
I know they're so good, but God, I fall asleep so quick. But I read a lot more during the summer. Because that way I'm like, okay, I tune out kids, I get my chair, I sit outside, soak in some, get some sun, and I'm like, I'll just read. So I'm probably going to catch up a lot on that probably this summer.
You might want to enjoy an Audible membership.
I can't. There's just something about reading. I've tried the Audibles. I just can't. I can't dive into it the way I can when I'm actually reading an actual book.
That's fair.
I mean, I've tried. Believe me, I've tried. But I just kind of zone out, like, because if it's got to be certain voices to keep me. If not, But
Mark Thompson is very good, and Ashley Eckstein actually does the voice she reads Ahsoka.
And she is so cute. I got to meet her last July at GalaxyCon in Raleigh. I was so excited. I love pictures. She's so cute. I was like, oh my God, I just want to take you from my pocket. Take you home. Oh my God, she's so cute. She's so adorable. But
all right, y'all, we are going to take an ad break. Yes, I know I promised you that we could get away with that one. But we're going to take an ad break and it's mainly because Snell would probably kill me if I didn't take an ad break. So remember, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud they are. So go ahead and turn those volume levels down. I will give you a 3 count, and then we will be right back. So 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. Thanks for listening, everyone. We greatly appreciate it. It helps support the podcast and the network. So, all right. So in our, what is their crew called again? The
Ghost, I know, is the ship.
The Ghost is
the one I remember.
Spectre. They call themselves Spectre X, Y, Z. So we've got Ezra, we've got Kanan, Hera, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper.
Yes.
All right. So I've just got to say it. Chopper is my favorite by far. We were going through and watching Rebels with Matt, and Matt's like, he just said "fuck you." I was like, what? He's like, yeah. Like all his beeps are like.
I think he's a little more spicy. He's pretty spicy. He's up there with R2. I mean, he's a little spicy. He got a little attitude. I mean, he does.
And I love it. So I you got to give number 1 Spectre to Chopper. I think Chopper. So, not counting Chopper, who is your favorite Spectre?
I think Kanan is, because his character evolved so much over the series. Because when you first meet him, he's just kind of like, yeah, he was like, Jedi, nope, no, something else, no, not me, no. And then when you bring Ezra into it, it's just like, and the way those two kind of gelled, it was really interesting. But I think the thing that really got me is which was the weirdest thing, is the way he lost his sight. Because once he lost his sight, I was like, this dude, he like created a whole new world. I mean, because especially like with the Jedi and the Force and that, I'm just like, and that's what's so crazy, because it's like when he had that shield over his eyes, and Sabine, she like painted little eyes on it. It was so cute. But I mean, I just felt like this dude did not lose his sight. It was crazy. It was super crazy. But for him to like make that ultimate sacrifice, I was like, oh, yeah, that kicked you straight in the feels. I mean, you're just like, oh, no.
I was sitting over on the couch, and Matt's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
"Don't worry about it. I'm fine."
Yeah, because I knew it was coming, and Matt's like, "No, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Just watch." And then, like, Kanan does the little force push, and like everything holds everything back, and I'm over here like quietly sobbing, and Matt's like, "So he's okay, right?" And I'm like, "No,
Force didn't help him on that one.
No." So what did you think of Kanan's spirit kind of coming back as the Loth Wolf, however you want to pronounce it?
I mean, I can't say I'm surprised because I mean, it's like he was so ensconced into this. It's like, how can you not have him in some form or fashion? Because I mean, it got to the point where he was so, like I said, it was like, Ezra's father figure, even though the whole deal, with Ezra's parents and all this kind of stuff, but still it was just like, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm just like, didn't know what the hell was going on, but it took me a minute to realize that Kanan and Hera were together. I'm like, hold on, what happened right here? What did I miss? I mean, because I know everybody's close, but I was like, I did not realize y'all were that close.
Yes.
So, I'm like, what did I miss? I mean, maybe I missed I blinked and I missed something. I don't know.
I think the relationship is more explored in A New Dawn, which is by John Jackson Miller, who I believe writes the Kenobi book. Please hold. This is gonna bug me. Yes, so he wrote Kenobi. So it's this one, and you got Hera and Kanan on the cover, and this is kind of how they meet and get together, kind of.
Well, I mean, even throughout the seasons, the episodes and whatnot. I mean, you saw how everybody was getting close, but then I was just like, whoa.
When she's about to say, "I love you,"
I know. I'm like, I mean, I know y'all were, like I said, it's like one of those moments where he's like, I know you're tight and everything. I know everybody's close, but did I miss something? Not that I had a problem with that, because I'm like, Hera is like badass as hell too. So I mean, I'm not. I was just
and then the reveal of their child in the epilogue.
Yeah. It's like, okay. That was interesting. That was interesting.
Well, because it definitely shocked me going through like Clone Wars and Rebels, because in Legends, cross species can have sex. They just can't have babies.
Yeah, it's like the genetics, everything doesn't build well. Not everything can combine to create new.
Yeah. So you have in Clone Wars, you have the clone with the Twi'lek, who and they have the two kids in Clone Wars. So this wasn't the first case.
Right.
But it's still a little weird to me because it's like, how does that work? But okay.
It would be. That's the thing about it, because it's interesting. It's like, what features does the offspring take? It's like, at one point, like Twilight, it's like, do you have this, or do you have like one and not the other? I mean, it's like, what kind of that would be very interesting.
I don't know, because currently it's only been they've only had male human to female Twi'lek, so it's never been like, because with male Twi'leks they're supposed to have one head tail always.
Okay.
So then I think.
Well, and all the other ones that we've seen, especially the one in cannot remember his name, so don't get me on this, but the one, the Mandalorian episode, he had well, no, because the one that
oh yeah, you're right. The one of the not slaves.
Like, it was like
there was like call them slaves.
Yeah, so it's like he had two. So I was like,
but I also think that maybe because it's shown that male Twi'leks have ears, but then the females have like the cones.
Yeah.
So there was thought process that maybe that was like a trans Twi'lek. No confirmation.
Well, her father. Well, Hera's father had two.
Oh, okay.
Didn't he have two? Well, it could be like, oh Lord, we're going down a rabbit hole.
We're going down a womp rat hole. Cham Syndulla. Yeah, he had two. I'm wrong.
Well, maybe it just depends, like, like, because sometimes you have different variants of a particular.
Yeah, so like they're different like races of Twi'lek, I think. Because Bib Fortuna only has one, I think.
Yeah, he's got the one that wraps, kind of, it's like super long and wraps around, doesn't it? It's almost like a scarf that kind of wraps around it.
Oh no, he has two too.
Does he? Oh, Lord,
I don't know. We give up. They
got two. Okay, damn it, they got two. Let's just roll with that.
Anyway,
too much evidence to otherwise.
Me and my blue hair losing my mind.
It's fine.
Okay, so I think my favorite Spectre, I gotta say, I always go between Ezra and Sabine, but I think right now I'm with Ezra, because Ezra just goes through a very similar transition to Kanan, and now that he's the main character, like we're kind of meant to see him take this journey, and to see him go from the street rat to a confident teenager who's a commander in the rebellion and makes the ultimate sacrifice to save his friends and to save his homeworld. It's a big transition for him, and it's just really cool to see.
Well, you learn a lot with him too, especially like, the circumstances under his parents, because finding out what actually, finally happened to them. I think that was a bit of a closure for him, so he was able to kind of move on a little bit, and kind of just kind of grow. And I think that was one of the reasons why it kind of opened him up more so to listening to Kanan. So, I mean, I think between those two, their relationship, they kind of helped each other move forward. So, yeah, I mean, I like Kanan, but and I agree with you too. I mean, Ezra, seeing his evolution, I mean, that was something crazy too, because, like you said, you start with this like little street urchin, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, he's cut his hair. He's got a new lightsaber. He's like, oh, I'm handling this. I'm like, okay, there you go, buddy. Go for it.
Yeah. And just to kind of see him do that, especially getting the second lightsaber, because he built the green bladed one for the first one, and which had the built-in stun gun and everything, where he was still kind of balancing the two worlds and trying to go, I can have force powers, but I can also be a regular person. And then to see him rebuild his lightsaber and actually take on a blue lightsaber, which traditionally means that you're seeking more of a peacemaker role in what you're doing, and you're searching just to get peace involved. Whereas the green one is more of a warrior stance. And so he builds a full-fledged lightsaber that doesn't have a stun gun or a blaster involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really cool transition. And he's such a good figure to have in that last season, because he picks up kind of not necessarily the slack Kanan leaves off, but the slack.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I caused this. I've got to try and recover what the team lost in this. But then just he also carries the guilt, because he's what caused Kanan's blindness, and it's a really cool transformation.
And then but like I said, we can't leave out Sabine either, because she had a really great story of kind of coming, because honestly, I didn't really see her as like a Mandalorian. Because I mean, I'm like, she's like this little kid. I mean, honestly, I'm just like, but her personality was so large, especially with like the arts you like to do. Just like, oh man, that'd be cool. It's like, yeah, I was like, I want that armor. That'd be, something, But then, just seeing her grow, and especially because did she end up with a dark saber? Because I remember seeing the dark. Because
so
I'm trying to grow off of this.
She takes the dark saber out of Maul's Dathomirian cave and goes, "Oh, this belongs to Mandalore." And so she kind of has it. She tries to give it to the pilot. I don't remember his name.
I'm trying to remember, because that was later. That was a later season. That was in season 4, was it not?
I think it was season 3. The dark saber stuff.
Okay.
But she tries to give it to the pilot that was defending the moon outside of Mandalore, and so they basically hold him prisoner so that he doesn't go to the Empire, because he made a bargain with the Empire to let them have safe passage.
Yeah, that's when was it Gar Saxon?
Not Gar Saxon.
But it was
what is his name?
I don't know. See, it's like I remember ideas and like things, like the details are like, sorry, the silver in my hair just takes it away.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
But I think it was Clan Saxon. It seems like I remember that. Because I remember Saxon was in there somewhere, because that's when
Concord Dawn. Finn Rao. Finn Rao's his name.
Okay.
And so he was the pilot, and he was held prisoner, and then decides that he's going to help the rebellion. And so this is after he's decided to help the rebellion. She tries to give him the darksaber and goes, "You're meant to lead Mandalore." And he's like, nope, not me.
Not me.
Because of the darksaber curse. It's whoever kind of gets it. It's supposed to be whoever gets it by a fight. But because she found it.
Technically, it wasn't like traditionally, technically hers. Like you said, if it wasn't, via battle, that kind of thing.
But she manages to kind of take it and go her own way with it. And she ends up giving it to Bo-Katan. But before then, she has her own fight with the Saxons, which is what she ends up having to deal with. Is she fights Gar Saxon to the death with the darksaber, and she beats him and tries to get him to surrender. Because that's what Kanan and Ezra have taught her. But the Mandalorian way is, nope, you take them out, kill.
Yeah,
and so he tries to kill her, and then he ends up dead anyways. So, but that's kind of her legacy there, and it's a really cool arc to see, especially as she gets more involved with the Mandalorians. And when she trains with Kanan, because Kanan's blind at the point where she goes to train with the darksaber, and he's babying her, and Hera's like, "You gotta stop babying her." And so he starts to train her like Ezra with the saber, and it just brings out it brings out so much character in her. And I found myself drawing parallels to the Book of Boba Fett episode where the Mandalorian is training with the armorer with the darksaber and Sabine, because he's like, it's just so heavy. And as Sabine gets into the groove of things, she's like, it's getting lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't wait to see Din Djarin have his moment with that. Like, I think that's going to be so much fun.
But like I said, I mean, that's what's so cool about Rebels is because from season 1 to season 4, you see such a growth of all these characters, and you know, within like 4 seasons, you know, there's a lot going on. I mean, even with Hera, you know, especially when you know, she goes like, was it Thrawn takes over her parents' palace?
Yep.
And, you know, she goes in there because there's like this one
family heirloom.
Yes. Yeah, it's like this little tree looking thing or whatnot. And it's, you know, it just see how, you know, a depth of that for, you know, what she's willing to go for, you know, just to get something that it's like, okay, well, these characters are they're a lot deeper than you give them credit for, you know, from when you meet them in, you know, the first couple of episodes. So that's one thing that really struck me about Rebels is the fact of the growth that all these characters had. Even Chopper. He got spicier as went on. I was like, okay.
He gets spicier, but he also grows a heart, I think.
Yes, because he's like, you can't leave them behind. You can't. No. We you know, and you know, he's willing to sacrifice, you know, to save a mission and all this kind of stuff. Like but can we talk about those spiders?
The spiders.
Can we talk about those spiders? That's the last thing I ever want to see. And if you go into a dark cave, don't go into a dark cave. Whether you got eyes in your head or not, don't go in a dark cave.
What did you think of them transitioning to the Mandalorian in live action?
I was just as terrified. I have great respect for spiders. I do. But when they're bigger than me or in my house, you got to go. I'm sorry. That's just fight or flight. Got to go.
I can't say anything. I see a bug and go, Matt, can you come here?
If you see a spider in the house, the kids are like, Mom, there's a spider. Where's it at? I will tear something down. I about tore up our fire pit in our last house because I could have swore it was a black widow. And I'm like, I'm about to tear it up because you are not going to be in my yard.
This is when I was at Itron, and I found a black widow and just like froze. It was in my cubicle.
Yeah, see, books, something, shoes, whatever. Something's about to get flattened, and it's not going to be me.
I called the health and safety agent. I was like, no, I don't do this. No. And everyone's like, well, you're the girl engineer. You're supposed to be like all powerful. So I'm like, nope.
As many splats that were in our old house where the kids are like, there's a spider. Not anymore. Now, if they're outside, I will leave you be. That is your space. But you walk inside these 4 walls, all bets are off. But yes, I just had to mention those spiders.
Oh yeah.
Because I was just like,
they were not as creepy to me in Rebels. It was the Mandalorian where I was like, oh my gosh.
It's those spiders. They're real. Oh my God. And they're like moving stuff. They're like all over everywhere. There's too many in one spot. Too many in one spot. And what was that tree? Was it a tree? Reindeer?
Are you talking about like the Force guy that Kanan talks to?
I couldn't tell you what the dude's name is. He's the one that helped Kanan, you know, kind of get himself together. I'm like, that was weird.
Yeah, and then Kanan tries to get him to help defend Chopper Base when Thrawn comes in with the Empire because they figured out where it is. And so he's trying to get him motivated, and the guy's like, nope, I'm Switzerland. And then he gets involved. And so I think the guy ends up dying at the end. I don't know.
I wish I could remember what the character's name was, because it was just like really.
If Nathan was in the chat, he would tell us.
I know. Thanks, Nathan. The one time we need you.
All right. So we kind of talked about favorite scenes already, but I kind of want to wrap things up because I promised a short episode because we've got other things to record. So what was like talking about your favorite scenes.
Hands down, what was the oh gosh, what was the episode? It was a two-parter at the end of season 2 going in season 3?
The Ahsoka Darth Vader.
Yes, and because it was called, what was that? Twilight of the Apprentice.
Yes.
Because like I said, to me that just kind of solidified a lot of, if Ahsoka was in like the original trilogies, or especially like in the prequels, to me that would have, with the combination of Padme and Ahsoka, I'm like, I 100% see why he dove like he did, between his mom, Padme, and Ahsoka, because losing those 3, that was a big blow. But this was at the point where I think Ahsoka finally came to grips with the fact, she's like, Anakin is Vader. Anakin is gone. I think that just really hit her. She was just like, but then a part of her was still like, it's still Anakin. It's like, I don't care how dark he is. It's still Anakin. It's still Sky Guy. I mean, it's still, but I think the first time I saw that, I was just like, I think I was just too shocked to even like have any emotion until after the fact, because I was just like, this is just the culmination of everything that you've seen from the Clone Wars. And then, because then where like Vader's mask falls away, and then you see that eye, and you're like, you see Anakin, you're like, he's still there. There's just a little, I don't care, just an eyeball, but he's still there. And you're just like, oh my God. So then, to me, that kind of solidifies more in, Anakin's redemption. So, you're like, he's still in there. So I don't feel like he really like 100%, dove down, but it was just really interesting. That was just one of those scenes, and, especially one of the great fights, that kind of thing that, the lightsaber duels and that kind of, just like, it just really sticks with you, because when I think of Rebels, I mean, that's the one main thing that sticks with me.
Yeah. And like, it's cool going through the first 2 seasons and seeing the connections that they made in the Clone Wars season 7, when Ahsoka is trying to, I think she's trying to avoid being sensed by Darth Vader, because like the ghost is flying through, and Vader kind of does the same head motion in the middle episodes for the Clone Wars season 7. He does the same motion as Anakin does when Ahsoka flies over him with the Martez sisters. And so it's a cool connection. That's like just a tiny detail.
Yeah, but then like I said, that one little detail, when you look at the overall picture, it's like a piece of a puzzle, and you're just like, this makes sense now. It just really, it just brings it to. So that's why, and I see this scene. So anytime I watch like Clone Wars previous, I'm like, it's just stuck in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I know where this is going. It's just so much more impactful, I guess. I don't know. It's just, it's some really great storytelling. I will say that. It's just like all these little puzzle pieces, and oh God, it's just fabulous. I mean, that's something matter of fact, I think I actually watched those 2 episodes not too long ago, because I was talking to someone about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna watch that just to kind of, and I'm just sitting there just still mesmerized, like I've seen it for the first time. Just like, oh.
Yeah. And like I said, I go between Twilight of the Apprentice and Twin Sons. I just think like you get so much growth in not only Ezra, because Ezra is still involved in that episode. Everybody kind of breaks it down to Obi-Wan and Maul, but Ezra's in there, and Obi-Wan teaches him a great lesson in terms of what Jedi are supposed to do, but also like kind of backing away and saying, okay, y'all got this. It's just a good motivator for Ezra to kind of find his place in the rebellion, and realize that they've kind of got to manage it on their own. But then just seeing Obi-Wan and Maul's perspective going hand in hand of what they're supposed to do, it's and like I cried the last time we watched it, Matt and I was like, oh my gosh, there's just so much depth here, especially watching it all in order. Oh, just so beautiful. And because Obi-Wan treats him like a friend at that point, which is also why I think there should be Obi-Wan Maul interactions in Obi-Wan Kenobi, because there's just so much more to their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then just seeing at the end of their fight where Maul asks, "Is he?" and Obi-Wan just gives him an acknowledgement. He's like, "He is," and he's talking about Luke Skywalker being the chosen one versus Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
So just so much depth in a 23-minute episode. Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm all about the tiny details now. All about the tiny details. I mean,
and Rebels has a lot of those little tiny details. It's like you don't really, may not realize it right off the bat, but you're just like, it's just building. It's kind of like with a painting. You're like building, the strokes. You're building the colors. You're building all this, and it's just, and then finally when you're finished with it, you're like, it's all there. Mm-hmm. All these layers. It's like it makes sense.
Yes. Y'all, the moral of today's episode is that Star Wars animation is some of the best storytelling that Star Wars has to offer.
Absolutely.
Point blank, plain and simple.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
And so I hope me last week kind of critiquing Filoni as a storyteller in his kind of current storytelling doesn't detract from this week's episode, where Filoni gets a lot of praise from me for Rebels. And telling the story that he does with us. Mm-hmm. And because it's some of the purely the greatest storytelling that Star Wars has to offer. So with that, Sarah, tell us where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at MyLittleKitten. Now I guess Katie will just have to tell me like when I kind of sit there, but slice of film. But you can also find me Friday night sometimes on Super Civil Servants podcast, which we kind of talk about just fun things or whatnot. So, but other than that, I mean, that's it. I just kind of bounce around. I mean, obviously, I'm a mom with kids and got dogs and life and all that kind of good stuff. That's one of the reasons why I really didn't do too much of my homework, because obviously I had to feed kids and make sure they bathe and just living, that kind of thing. So yeah, fun times.
It's what we gotta do. I had to feed the husband, but then the husband went and got me tiramisu. So
I would not complain about that.
No, he got brownie points.
Yes, absolutely. Good man.
And it was really good tiramisu. The next time you are down here, we're gonna have to go to this place.
Oh, yes, really good. Yes. It might not be for another few weeks, but I'll tell you the reason why later. But anyways,
okay. Y'all, you can find me. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. You can find my other show and Sarah's other show, Slice of Film, is on Twitter as well, at Slice of Film 1. You can follow us there. Again, episodes for that show are going to start dropping every other Sunday on April 3rd. So mark your calendars because it's coming. 2 weeks. Yes. And this show is Star Wars Alliance. You can find it on Twitter. It's at Star Wars Alliance without the A in the Wars. Very important. Don't forget it. With that, I just want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time you're watching or listening. And we will see y'all next time. May the Force be with you.
Bye, guys.